Welcome, everybody. This is Julian again. Today, I bring you part 2 of our wildlife series, and I interview Alex Israel, and she's a field biologist. She works specifically in wood thrushes, which is a type of bird in Canada, and we dig deep into a lot of different bird species, as well as how we can help and prevent forest fragmentation. And forest fragmentation we'll get into a little bit during the episode. But yeah, so looking forward to it. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody. This is Julian again with another field biologist, Alex. How are you doing today, Alex?
I am good. How are you?
Very good, very good. So Alex is currently doing her graduate work and focusing on wood thrushes. Now, explain to me a little bit about what you do and what a typical day of work looks like for you, or of research.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to go over it briefly, throughout the world, songbirds are declining at an extremely alarming rate. And one of the largest problems that influences the survival of nesting songbirds is nest predation. So their nests essentially get eaten. And it's thought that the concealment of nests, or how well hidden the nests are, has a huge impact on the outcome of the nest or if it survives. So to look at this, I am looking at concealment in wood thrushes, which is a species of songbird in Canada that's actually been recently deemed threatened. And so gaining more knowledge about the nesting strategies of this bird is really going to be important for informing future conservation efforts for this species. Um,
Really?
so, ba-
Yeah. No, keep going. I won't cut you off. Sorry.
so basically, that means I look at a lot of wood thrush nests and I do a lot of field work.
So basically, you try to figure out how well hidden are these nests from predators, or does it
That's
depend?
right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right. I try to think of the nest in from a predator standpoint, um, because I'm trying to figure out what makes a nest more successful than another one. Because the thing about wood thrushes is the choice in nesting spots for wood thrushes is so variable, and I'm trying to figure out if there's any sort of strategy for this placement of their nests.
Very cool. Now, wood thrushes. I guess you're working in Canada. We spoke about this a little bit before. Where exactly in Canada are you?
So I go to York University, as you said, but I do my research all in Norfolk County, which is on the north shore of Lake Erie. And the county is known for its kind of fragmented forested landscape. So there's a bunch of farms in between forest fragments, and this makes a really good area for studying forest fragmentation, which is actually one of the reasons thought to be contributing to the decline of wood thrushes.
So
So
for people that don't know what forest fragmentation is, that's kind of the breaking up of a bigger forest into smaller forests.
that's right. As
Okay.
urbanization and farmland comes into, I guess, a more pristine forested area, they take down forests and make farms, and this breaks up the forest into smaller fragments or smaller sizes. And this can actually be really detrimental to songbirds that are trying to breed in large forests. Like a lot of songbirds require large continuous forests to breed properly. And forest fragmentation can actually affect these songbirds in a really negative way.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine also not only songbirds, right? I mean, mammals, all animals. If you break up their habitat, you're gonna cause some serious issues, and the
Yes,
numbers are gonna
absolutely.
decline. That's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, Canada is known for its beautiful landscapes, so you picked the right place, I guess, to study. That's awesome. Um, I wanted to ask you, which predators often hunt the nests or the eggs, or I guess the babies too, the wood thrush babies. What are
Yeah,
the
yeah,
most
there's
common
actually
hunted predators?
I wouldn't say there's one most common one. There's actually a huge variety of predators that eat wood thrush nests. This can range from raccoons, who are nocturnal predators. This can actually range to chipmunks, which I think a lot of people don't think of as a nest predator.
Yeah, I had no
Um,
idea actually.
the adorable little
They're so
chipmunks.
cute. Yeah.
No, they really love wood thrushes. This can also include blue jays. Blue jays are actually a huge nest predator. They prefer eating wood thrush nests at the egg stage. They don't typically go for nests at the nestling stage, although they can. This can include crows as well and hawk species. So hawks are actually known for once they find a nest, they'll actually wait until the babies get older before they decide to eat the
Are
nest.
you serious? So they're
I mean,
methodical and yeah. Wow.
yeah. So there's actually a huge variety of predators that eat wood thrush nests. But this actually isn't the only thing that affects survival of the nest. Another thing is nest parasites. Have you ever heard of brood parasites?
I have not. Please explain.
So brood parasites in Canada, or at least in Ontario, that are affecting wood thrush nests are called they're cowbirds. So brown-headed cowbirds are brood parasites, and this means that they haven't developed any sort of strategy to build their own nest. So cowbirds don't build their own nest. They actually lay their eggs in other songbird nests.
Ah,
And
okay.
since the other songbirds don't recognize that the egg isn't theirs, they actually raise the cowbird chick as their own. And you would think that, adding another chick into a bird nest doesn't sound too bad. But when you think of a giant cowbird that's the size of a grackle, well, I guess not a grackle, maybe a robin. Cowbird's the size of a robin. When it lays its egg into a nest of a species of warbler, for example, which are much smaller, the larger cowbird, as it grows, it's going to kick the other warbler babies out of the nest. And then so the warbler parent will be working so hard to keep up feeding this huge cowbird chick that it's actually really detrimental to the parent warbler as well. So it's a really neat strategy for these cowbirds to lay their egg into another species nest, but unfortunately it has negative consequences on the host bird that's raising the cowbird.
Yeah, that's wow. So they basically just steal the nest, or they. That's crazy, though. I have never heard of this. Now, I wanted to ask you, how come they, even as they're growing up, what they don't realize that there's an foreign baby in their nest?
That's right. Well, cowbirds actually originally they're not native to this area. They've kind of expanded their range into southern Canada and other parts of North America. Um, so because of that, the species of birds here, they're, I guess you could call it evolutionarily naive, which means that they didn't evolve next to these brood parasites. They haven't developed any sort of mechanism to recognize these foreign eggs. So they have no way of knowing that these eggs, even though they're completely different colored, they're different size, they have no way of knowing that it's a foreign egg. So they just assume that it's their own and they raise it as their own.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. So it's in kind of an introduced species, and they just have never encountered it before, so they don't know. Very
That's right.
interesting. Very interesting. So I wanted to ask you this in the beginning, but I forgot. How did you get into studying birds and specifically wood thrushes?
Um, It actually kind of sparked from a second year university course in my undergraduate. We started talking about birds, and we actually started talking about tinamous, which is a species of bird in central Southern America. I'm not actually exactly sure where they range, but they lay these beautiful colored eggs. And I just thought it was so intriguing. And this was sort of in the time when I was deciding on my major. And I thought, you know what? Biology seems really cool. So I'm going to major in biology. And so since then, I've been interested in the bird world. And when I was looking for graduate school, I was looking for labs that were specifically researching birds. And I got the opportunity to volunteer on this project actually in the last year of my undergraduate. And I was also taking my own data on nest concealment in my undergraduate. And this actually developed into my honors thesis. So I did an honors thesis on nest concealment and wood thrush nests. And from that, I was able to expand my research and do a master's project on this as well. So,
That's
um,
awesome. That's really cool. So what are
yeah.
your plans for the future? are you going to continue with this specific species of birds, or would you like to expand to other species? Maybe go to, I don't know, South America, the Amazons?
That's the dream, isn't it?
That's the dream.
I right now I am going to continue with my project. So I'm going to be doing another field season, looking at wood thrush nests. And then after I have this all written up, I'm probably going to pursue a PhD. But I would definitely like to stick with researching birds. Researching birds in the Amazon would be amazing. But unfortunately, not everyone's always that lucky.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and I guess they have a high number of they have a high number of species. Excuse me, a high biodiversity in the Amazon.
Yes, yeah. The trouble is finding a professor who is researching something that you're
Exactly.
interested in.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Well, good luck. What else? I had some other questions. Do you have any crazy stories from the field? As a field researcher, you spend a lot of time in the field. You were telling me, what, 12 to 14 hours a day?
Yes, yeah.
Whoa.
We basically, when we're working in the field, we work sunrise to sundown, which typically is around 14 hours a day in the woods between driving in between sites during the day as well. But yeah, I can't think of anything crazy. Um, One thing that comes to mind is we know that wood thrushes eat small invertebrates on the ground. They'll eat, worms and caterpillars. And um, one time we saw a wood thrush going to feed her babies, and she was holding like a redback salamander, which is
What? Yeah.
it's quite a large food item for a wood thrush. So that was pretty hilarious to see because she looked really happy about her prize.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So they're little hunters too, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, they'll like I said, they eat little arthropods off the forest floor. Um and yeah.
Now, what
Yeah,
about
the
snakes? I wanted to ask you, are there a lot of
oh,
snakes in Canada? Are snakes also a predator for the eggs, or can they not reach the high nests, or how does that work?
the snake population in Norfolk County. There are a few species of snakes, but one species in particular that's known for eating bird eggs, which is the fox snake. They're also a threatened species in Ontario. So they don't really have a huge impact on our wood thrush nests in particular.
Ah, okay, okay. So yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Are there any dangerous animals for humans in the field up in Ontario? Ontario, I don't know how to say it.
Are there any what? Sorry?
Dangerous species, like
Oh,
snakes, for
dangerous
example,
species.
or I don't know what else there would be. Spiders,
Not
maybe.
really, especially in Norfolk County. I mean, we don't even have any bears. We don't. Um, Norfolk County is they're Carolinian forests, so they're unique from any other forests in Canada. They have different species of trees from other forests in Canada. It's pretty crazy if you drive along the edge of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. You enter a whole different biodiversity, I guess, in terms of vegetation.
Yeah.
But no, we don't have any dangerous species. There is one venomous species of snake in Ontario called the Massasauga rattlesnake, but they don't range in my study area at all. So,
Yeah, but I was going to say, because your Instagram pictures are beautiful, I have to say. So if any
oh,
of our listeners want to see her amazing pictures, and there's a lot of them with you holding snakes. So I was like, okay, well, maybe maybe she likes snakes. And it seems like there's a lot of snakes, but who knows?
yeah, no,
Cool.
I guess my career in biology, I guess you could say, I worked at a reptile zoo briefly,
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
which was sort of a zoo, but it was also a reptile sanctuary for animals that, didn't have a home anymore. And so I got to work with a number of different exotic species of reptiles, and I got to give daily presentations to educate the public about reptiles and how cool they are, and you're totally safe from them. And yeah, it was really good practice for presenting in front of the public and educating people about our native reptile species. At least that's the way the facility was run when I worked there. But yeah, it was awesome, and I guess reptiles kind of have a special place in my heart. So I guess that's why you see a lot of pictures of me with snakes.
It's awesome. Yeah, I also love reptiles and specifically snakes. I feel like people have this I don't know, this natural fear of snakes and also sharks. But if you look at the numbers, people don't really die from snakes or from sharks. It's kind of like I don't know, an irrelevant fear. It's very
For
interesting.
sure. Especially in Ontario. I mean, we really, even with our venomous species of snake, there have been no fatalities
Yeah,
from
exactly. But when
at
people
least
see
to my
snakes,
knowledge.
they get so scared. So that's really
Yeah, I
cool.
don't know.
Who knows? Okay. Yeah, also I wanted to talk a little bit about owls. I saw that
Okay.
you have some beautiful pictures on owls. I don't know much about them. I don't know. Do you have any stories
Yeah,
about
I'm not a
owls?
super expert with owls either. Basically in the fall time, if I think the pictures of owls you're seeing on my page were from saw-whet owl banding. So saw-whets will migrate through many banding stations throughout North America in the fall time, and that's kind of the best time to catch them, to band them, and see their cute little faces.
So how do you catch them exactly?
Well, basically, it's just like we catch our wood thrushes. So in addition to my project looking at wood thrush nests, I work as a field assistant for a PhD student in my lab, for two PhD students in my lab who are looking at the adults and the babies specifically. Um, so in order to study the adults, we have to catch them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we put up what's called a mist net, which is a very fine material net, and the mist net has pockets within it. So if a bird flies into the mist net because they can't see the netting, then they'll just fall into a pocket and get tangled. And it takes a little bit of skill to get the birds out of the net. We can't just let anybody take birds out of the net, and neither can a banding station. Um, and
Yeah.
once we have the bird out of the net, they're totally uninjured. The net doesn't hurt them at all. And we can take measurements like wing chord, and we can measure their tarsus length, which is a portion of their leg, and we can age them. So this is a great way to catch birds and look at them in the hand to measure more characteristics about them.
Okay,
Uh,
really cool. Yeah, the mist net. So it's kind of like a see-through net, and the bird flies into it, and it kind of gets stuck in the pocket, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
essentially.
then
Yeah,
and then it kind of gets tangled in there a little bit, and you have to be very careful because obviously they're very fragile
yeah,
when you're
yeah,
taking it out. Yeah, very. I've seen these before, and actually, I have taken birds out of the net,
oh, nice.
and it's
Yeah,
awesome. It
it's
is very
really,
complicated because they get all mixed in there and wrapped up, and so I can see what you're saying about
yeah,
only let the experts take them out.
yeah. It's
Now,
kind of like a puzzle sometimes taking them out.
so for big animals like owls, it can be very complicated. Can they? Is it dangerous? Because I know owls are pretty agile hunters. They can eat pretty large animals.
Yeah, well, basically with birds of prey like that, the thing that you have to be wary of when you're taking them out of a net is their talons. 'Cause their talons are very strong, and that's how they hunt. Basically, birds of prey use talons before anything when they're defending themselves or hunting. So if you have a good hold of the legs and you have the talons where somewhere that's not gonna get you, then you're totally safe taking a bird of prey out of the net. For example, when we set up our mist nets for our wood thrushes, we do get bycatch occasionally. So that means some other species of birds will fly into the net as well without totally out of our control. We can't help that. So we just take them out of the net quickly and let them go. But this year we caught a sharp-shinned hawk.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a smaller species of hawk, and basically you just have to be careful taking them out. Make sure you have a good hold on their legs, so you know where their talons are, so they can't get you. And it's really not that bad. I mean, plus they're a really tiny species of hawk. They're pretty adorable. I think I have a picture of
Yeah,
them
I'm
on my
looking
page.
at it right now actually.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, were you the one to take that out or did you have to leave that to the PhD students?
The PhD student took that out mostly because he was super excited about seeing a
Yeah.
sharp-shinned up close.
Now, do you have to wear gloves too or how does that work? Just as a kind of
No,
like an extra security. No, so you grab the legs to make sure that the talons can't scratch you up and then you're safe to go pretty much.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different techniques and preferences with people who take birds out of nets. But with birds of prey, it's important to be aware of their talons. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I was just thinking, if you have some birds stuck in your nets, can other birds of prey come and attack or to eat the trapped birds? Because maybe they're hearing sounds of distress,
Yeah,
and they see. Has that ever happened to you guys?
that's a great question. That's never happened to us, but it can happen, which is why we check the nets quite frequently. So we'll actually sit in a hidden spot from the nets and make sure we're monitoring the net. So if something does get caught in the net, we go and get it very quickly.
Yeah, you can't just leave it there because then, a big owl or hawk will come and swoop it up.
That's right. Yeah, the sharp-shinned hawk that we caught was most likely hunting songbirds in the immediate area. They are a known predator of our wood thrushes. So yeah.
Very interesting. Very cool. Very cool stuff. Now, I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you know about this, but I remember the world's largest bird, or that I think, the condor, right? Are they endangered? They're quite endangered, right?
I know the California condor is endangered, but I don't know much about condors.
Yeah, no, just a random thought
Unfortunately,
popped in my
sorry.
head. Because I hadn't heard much about them. They're huge animals.
Yeah, I don't have a broad bird knowledge outside of
Uh,
Ontario.
Okay. Yeah, but Ontario has beautiful birds, so I mean,
Yeah, we have a great variety of beautiful songbirds. It's pretty awesome to come here in the springtime in May and June when they're in full song.
that's awesome. So, can you? Oh, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Are you able to do the song? Can you say? Can you whistle the song?
I am not good at mimicking the song of
Okay.
a wood thrush, but
Is
wood
that?
thrushes,
Yeah,
they
keep
have a
going.
beautiful, beautiful song. Many people love their song. But when you work 14 hours a day listening to a wood thrush song, trying to find their nest, it can get old very quickly.
Like anything, right? Too
That's
much of
right.
anything is a bad thing. That's awesome.
That's right. But no, they have a beautiful song. It's very flute-like, and they make notes a lot that sound like irole. But I can't, there's no way that I can mimic it. It's nothing
Okay.
it's beyond my vocals.
Perfect. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about conservation. You have any ideas or any, yeah, ideas on conservation, how we can kind of prevent this forest defragmentation, like you said?
Yeah, well,
That's a tough one.
forest fragmentation.
Or yeah.
Forest fragmentation is something that it's hard to reverse, just because landowners are very protective of their land. But what's important is preserving the forest fragments that still exist,
Mm-hmm.
because even though they're not ideal for breeding, they are very important stopover sites for migrating birds. So this means that birds that migrate through, they need a break, they stop in a forest fragment, and they can feed there safely rather than in, for example, a city or something. But one of the major contributors to bird declines worldwide is actually predation by domestic cats.
Cats. Okay.
Yes, domestic cats are actually a huge problem for songbirds. And the second biggest problem for songbirds is window collisions.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, so window collisions and domestic cats both are huge problems for songbird deaths around the world. And my advice for domestic cats is for people who let their cats outside, just please, please keep your cat indoors. And I know it's a very controversial subject and it's a very soft spot for many people, but we have to remember that domestic cats are domesticated animals. They're not native to anywhere on Earth, and so they don't belong in any environment. Since they're a domestic animal, they belong inside. And the problem with cats is that they're subsidized predators. So this means that they hunt beyond what they need to survive. So other predators, they only hunt what they need to survive, but cats, they essentially do it for fun.
Cats are the biggest murderers ever.
Yes,
I
yeah,
have a cat,
they
and
love to
yeah,
hunt.
exactly. They love it. It's kind of a game to them.
That's
So
right, exactly. So
so keep your
it's
cats inside because they're killing all the birds and it's causing problems.
that's right. And window collisions can be a problem that can be somewhat easily solved as well. A lot of facilities are, I guess this isn't easy, but a lot of facilities are installing windows that have a UV coating that birds can see easier so they don't fly into the window. But an easier solution for people who are trying to prevent birds hitting their homes, um, there are stickers that you can buy that you can put on the outside of the window so that birds can see the windows easier and they're not as likely to fly into it. Um, but yeah, window collisions can be a hard thing to solve as well, especially with big cities, big skyscrapers filled with windows that are super reflective and the birds have no idea. Yeah, it's really sad.
It is really sad. Actually, that we had the same problem at my house growing up. We would always have birds fly into the windows, and you would hear
Oh,
it. You'd hear
really?
boom, and you would look around, and you'd see kind of this bird, sometimes dead, sometimes it was just knocked out, and it would wake up and fly away. But eventually, like you said, we bought the stickers, and it made a huge difference. I mean, we still
Oh,
every
that's
once in
awesome.
a while will get a collision, but I have to say probably 80% of the birds have stopped flying into the windows. They're kind of cool. They look like leaves. They're like a see-through leaf.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good to hear. I'm glad it's worked for you.
Yes, but you make a good point, and I think the biggest issue is the huge skyscrapers, right? The huge skyscrapers
Yes.
with thousands of windows, and the last thing the company wants to do is buy 1,000, little stickers to put on, put on
Yeah,
the
it's
windows.
true. It's just
So
not feasible, but it's something that it's something that brings awareness for people to realize, wow, like windows can hurt birds. Maybe I'll do something, at least in my home, that can prevent this right here. And so obviously it's not feasible to put stickers on all the skyscrapers in a city, but it's a good thing to raise awareness to make people start thinking about songbirds and thinking about what we're doing that's contributing to their decline.
yeah, and I guess not just songbirds. I guess all birds. All birds
Yeah.
have this. It's an issue that birds they don't see the windows and they fly in at high velocities and they can die like that way. So yeah, I
Yeah,
would
it's
suggest if you've seen those or have that problem at home, definitely go buy those stickers. They're not expensive and they make a big difference. So
sure. Yeah.
cool. Well,
Cool.
Alex, well, thank you for coming on today. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I
Thanks so
hope
much
you
for
had a
having
good
me.
time. So, yeah, do you have any websites or any sort of besides your Instagram page, which we will link in the show notes? Do you have anything you want to shout out, websites or any organizations that you're interested in?
I don't actually.
That's fine. Don't
I
worry.
just kind of try to reach out through my Instagram page and make awareness about science and conservation and wildlife, but I don't really have any outlets
That's
other than
fine.
that as of yet.
Well, no, you have beautiful pictures, so I would suggest people to follow you on Instagram. You have amazing pictures from your field travels, so that's awesome.
Thank you
And
so
if you have a cat, keep them indoors. And if you have windows that are killing birds, definitely buy the stickers. It makes a big difference.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on.
For sure.